I'm Brady, and this is Game Autopsy, a series where I dissect the corpses of deceased games to uncover their true final moments. No speculation, no conspiracy theories, just cold, hard evidence. We've got a fresh body on the slab today. Overwatch. Time of passing, unclear. But the internet is already pointing fingers. The keyboard warriors have ruled Marvel Rivals as the primary suspect. But I know that's not right. The wounds tell a different story. Something else did this to Overwatch. Something deeper. Rotting it from the inside long before Marvel Rivals ever set foot on the scene. Let's open it up and see what really did this to Overwatch. I call this Game Autopsy. We're basically taking a concept of a game and we're trying to see exactly what made it die, or at least like a controversy that made it not as fond as it used to be. I'm doing this as a test with Overwatch 2 because it's kind of a game that has been talked to death already. I can figure it out. What happened to Overwatch? Mom, you don't understand. I'm putting together a conspiracy board. You don't get it. Let's get angry, guys. Let's get absolutely angry. This pisses me off. Overwatch has been incredibly popular for a long time, and pretty much it released in 2016. It was so successful that it actually won Game of the Year in 2016, which I think is really crazy because nowadays a like competitive multiplayer game like that winning Game of the Year is just really strange to me because there's so many good games out there and we kind of are done with the hero shooters. It's just to the point where it's overdone. It's incredibly overdone. Most games that win Game of the Year are like Baldur's Gate or Uncharted or games like Witcher, where it's like a very strong narrative. And Overwatch won because it kind of swept the nation for a while. A lot of people were really excited for a new take on a first-person shooter because this is at the time when a lot of hero shooters weren't everywhere. They kind of pioneered it. We had Team Fortress 2, and everyone was kind of comparing this to Team Fortress 2 and like League having a baby, which was pretty apt at the time. The fact that it also came from Blizzard helped it out a lot because like we all know Blizzard's a huge company. This is before Activision bought it and they were pioneering their first new IP in forever. So a lot of people were excited. So off the bat, it already had a lot of things going for it. It had a good art style, interesting characters, and it was really fun to play. So it makes sense that it won Game of the Year. Nowadays, like Marvel Rivals, I love Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals is not winning Game of the Year, like 100%. There's going to be something else that comes along and beats it, but winning Game of the Year as Overwatch to me is kind of crazy. There's rumors that during this time at around 2016 to 2017, Blizzard was already talking about making Overwatch 2. And I think it's because a lot of people liked the story of Overwatch and they wanted to see more of the characters. But the issue was that there wasn't a lot of story actually in the game. We got drip fed stories about the characters and everything very slowly through animations and just random stuff like that definitely did not satisfy a lot of people. So I think the talk for Overwatch 2 came along in the way that, hey, our engine that we made doesn't have enough power to actually make maps that are big enough for player versus environment. So what if we make a game that is just story related? So that's how it's rumored to have started. Overwatch 2 was finally announced in 2019, which is crazy because that was only 3 years after it came out. And they said that they were going to slow down development of Overwatch 1 to focus on Overwatch 2. And a lot of people were pretty excited because, hey, this meant a whole new game. And the whole promise was that they were going to add PvE elements to it. The main idea behind Overwatch 2 was that PvE was supposed to focus on elements of a story, which was really cool because we love the characters. And I don't know about you guys in chat, but I love the story and the world building of Overwatch. I think it's really interesting, which is why I was so disappointed with all this stuff that's going on. Basically, the idea was that Overwatch 1 was a great game that they originally only wanted to be a player versus player game, right? But a lot of people wanted to see a story, so there were talks internally from people like Jeff Kaplan, who used to run the Overwatch team, and he's amazing. We're going to get into him. And he basically wanted to make it so Overwatch had a campaign, but as we'll soon figure out, that fell through. If we take a look at the psychological profile of Overwatch, you can tell that from pretty much from 2019 to October 4th of 2022, Overwatch suffered a lot of neglect. There was this long development cycle, and during that time, there was basically no content that came out for Overwatch, and it's like it was being fully ignored for those 3 years. There was a gap in content from 2019 to 2022. It was very clear through the psychological profile that we've seen of Overwatch that it was suffering from neglect. There were barely any updates. There was nothing going on with the game, but we kept hoping that Overwatch 2 was going to be great because it's like, don't worry guys, it's coming. Now, I'll be honest, there's a small detail here that I'm kind of glossing over. There was a pandemic that hurt development time because really the development for Overwatch 2 had already been in production for a long time. And when the pandemic happened, it kind of stretched that even more to the point where resources were spent. They took 3 years and pretty much only added a few features and removed stuff from the game. It's crazy. There's a couple reasons why the game was led down this bad path, and the biggest sign of neglect was pretty easy to spot. So there was the lead developer, Jeff Kaplan, and he left the Overwatch 2 team, and he passed the reins to his coworker, Aaron Keller. And we've seen this before in other games that have suffered from neglect, like Halo Infinite. When lead devs start jumping ship during development, it's usually a sign that something is going wrong. Usually it involves management kind of like putting down creative ideas. And Jeff Kaplan's been at Overwatch for a while. He's a really, really fun personality at the company. A lot of people really, really like him. He used to do these videos and stuff. He basically was like, hey, it's Jeff Kaplan it's Jeff from the Overwatch team. And he was memed on like crazy. A lot of people really liked him. So when he left the team during Overwatch 2 development, that's when people kind of raised their eyebrows and they're like, uh-oh, something's going on here. Like, what's going on? And I remember on Reddit at the time, because this also happened with Halo Infinite, that there was a lot of coping going on. Oh, it could still be fine. There's a lot of people that are still on the team and everything. But like when you start seeing like lead developers leave, it's especially at bigger companies. It's usually only at companies owned by like big management teams where like you have to talk to like executives and stuff to get decisions made. And you see a lot of these creatives leaving, and that basically means like, hey, they're not making our decisions go through. I'm a creative. My work isn't getting recognized, so I don't want to be here. So that's a really good sign that a game's not going to be really good. If you have team members that stick around, it'll probably be a sign of a good game. For example, The Witcher 4, 80% of the team, I believe, is still there from The Witcher 3. Same with Cyberpunk as well, Orion, the game that they're making. Something interesting that I noticed through the promotion of Aaron Keller is that he also had been at Blizzard for a really long time. He'd been there since 2001, and he's a really good world builder and level designer. He started as a level designer in Blizzard, and one of his proudest achievements, and I quoted them on this, is that he was working on the Lich King expansion and also built the city of Stormwind. So we have this where we have one of the main causes of death, right? So what exactly caused the neglect, right? Overwatch 1 was neglected. In 2019, they stopped updating it, obviously because the management was doing ideas, and they started neglecting the game. Jeff Kaplan leaves the Overwatch team and gives control to Aaron, right? And Aaron's a good level designer. Like I said, he made Stormwind. He made the Lich King expansion, which in my opinion is one of the best narratives inside of WoW. I haven't really played a lot of WoW, but I've done a lot of lore research for the game because, like, let's be honest, it's fantastic. And that's one of the best expansions ever. The story is incredible. So he obviously knows what he's doing. So I'm a little bit confused exactly what went wrong, because the biggest criticism we get from Overwatch 2 is why was there no PvE on lunch? Why was there no PvE on lunch? I said it again because now I'm thinking about lunch. Why was there no PvE on launch? There we go. We got it, boys. It only took 3 times. We're very professional here at Braid Nation. We only take things incredibly seriously. It's very interesting because if we actually cut into the cadaver here and we look inside, we can see that there was PvE content, but it's actually been fully removed. And basically what this means is that there is remnants of storyboarding, abilities, data of PvE missions that existed within the game files that were removed. And this is likely because they thought that PvE was a waste of time. I've never seen a patient like this, because what's funny is they removed PvE from the game and it didn't kill it. It did not kill Overwatch, and it spent years going on still. And I've never seen a patient like this survive getting its PvE content forcibly removed. Blizzard wanted to have emergency surgery to have PvE put back in through patches. So basically what this means is they did actually add PvE back into the game. It's $15, but it was completely different than what was promised. It's almost like you take an organ out and then you replace it with a heart that doesn't have all the valves, right? It did not have skill trees. It did not have character progression. And it was just really reused missions over and over and over again, which is really annoying because, like I said, the world building is so incredible. The campaign was not great. And a little fun fact as well, Overwatch 2's campaign was added to the game a year after release, the same month that Baldur's Gate 3 came out, which is crazy to me because it came out after, same month, but after. Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the best games ever. It is amazing. It is a narrative game masterpiece. It is just fantastic through and through. And the balls on Blizzard to release this terrible story that had so much cut from it the same month as Baldur's Gate 3 is crazy to me. The worst part is people are like, well, at least we're getting a story now. A little bit after this, about a few months later, Blizzard announces they're cutting off all PvE expansion. It's a traumatic sign of things to come. I don't think it's the cause of death. It's definitely, we're getting warmer. We're getting warmer to what actually might have caused Overwatch 2 to be the way that it is. But I don't think it's because PvE was canceled. Because a baseline, we still have a game here, right? We still have a game. People love it. It's still fun. And people are just annoyed because they were promised things and they weren't given it. We can see, like, right here, we can see that Overwatch 2 was alive post-surgery, right? They added PvE back in. They gave it surgery. But it made its quality of life awful. It's just... It's like they gave it half a heart and then said, "Ooh, sorry, we were hoping that a full heart was going to come in, but we can't do that." Overwatch 2 had a lot of development time. Like I said, it was in development before 2019. It was announced in 2019 and released in 2022. I'd say that's like that's pretty average, I would say, for a game to be in development. And here's what happened on release: they added passives to each of the main roles. So I feel like a crazy person connecting all these dots. Tanks were harder to stagger, supports regenerated HP, and DPSs move slightly faster. Okay, so that's one thing added, right? Adding passes to each role is pretty cool. And the second thing they added was they made the game 5v5, which, as we've already discussed in chat, actually, that everybody missed 6v6. So effectively, in 3 years of development time, they removed a player from the game, and they called that a new feature. But in reality, everybody wants 6v6 back. It's why Marvel Rivals also works really well. 6v6 is just great. It sucks because, like, a lot of our friend group that we play Overwatch with, sometimes one person to be left out because we're so used to playing with 6. It's actually really sad. A few characters were reworked, and it was Orisa, Bastion, and Doomfist. Doomfist became a tank, Orisa got new abilities, and Bastion became like a mobile turret platform. I actually think this is a cool feature. Reworking a lot of the characters was something that definitely needed to happen earlier. So the reworks are pretty cool. I like that change a lot. Dudes and conspiracy theorists, I can figure it out. What happened to Overwatch? What happened to Overwatch, guys? It could be anything. I swear. And then the last thing they released new characters. And that's huge. We want new characters. New characters are exciting, right? Like, we want to play new heroes. It's what brings us back to the game, at least for me. I love when new heroes are announced. And these new characters were Sojourn, Junker Queen, who's my favorite character in the game, I will admit, Junker Queen, and Kiriko, right? But when I looked up when I was looking up material on Overwatch 2, every single article was like, Overwatch 2 releases with 3 new characters. That's not true. It's absolutely not true. What happened was Overwatch actually released earlier. And let me double check this really fast. So the real launch date was April 26, 2022. And the reason why I say it's the real launch date is because the game launched as a PvP beta is how they announced the game, right? And that's because they knew that Overwatch 2 was not going to be a PvE game. So they released the game as a free-to-play model in April 26. In June 28th, they added Junker Queen to the game, right? Still in PvP beta. And then they added Kiriko to the game on October 4th, 2022, which was the launch of the game, which is stupid because, like I said, PvE was supposed to be the main flagship of the game, but it did not. The beta was the full game, and they lied to us. And I guarantee you it's because they wanted to get the game out faster, because the longer Overwatch 2 isn't released, the more money they lose as a company, right? So they wanted to get that game out there, and they're like, what if, we're still working on this stuff, what if we just actually push it out a little bit earlier and call it a beta? And that's what they did. And it really annoys me, because they called it a full game, and it absolutely was not. Let's get angry, guys. Let's get absolutely angry, because we all love video games here, and this pisses me off. Okay, so they lied about the launch date, right? And I'll write down the real launch date here. The real launch date was April 26, 2022. Because every article I was reading online was like, Overwatch 2 launches with 3 new heroes. And I'm like, no, it didn't. I remember playing when the game released, and I only remember Sojourn existing. And granted, Kiriko and Junker Queen did come out quickly afterwards. It is unbelievable how much they lied about this game and got away with it. And I still see people defending it. I see a lot of people being like, oh, Overwatch 2 isn't really a dead game, which is true. It is hated by a lot of people, but it's still played by a lot of people. But I see a lot of people defending it, and I think that's a huge, absolutely giant mistake. We cannot defend things like this when they will actively harm the rest of the gaming community. And I'm sorry if I'm getting a little bit too heated about this, but I see this happening, and I don't want it to happen with other games. I get a little bit emotional. No, Mom, I don't need to go down to dinner. I'm talking to my friends, Mom. Mom, you don't understand. I'm putting together a conspiracy board. You don't get it. Blizzard is trying to control the gaming sphere. You wouldn't get it. Overwatch 2 felt like a new season patch. It felt like a patch that should have been released with a new, like, oh, here's the new season of Overwatch. It was a good update, but it just should have been a new season. Let's review the board, guys, because we're going to figure out how Overwatch died, because I'm telling you right now, it's not the lies. It's not the lack of PvE. There's something even worse going on that was the cause of death. So we have Overwatch was neglected by its creators, Jeff Kaplan left the team, and Aaron Keller was not listened to, because as we can see here through the proof of him working as a world builder and level designer for good, he can make goddamn stories. PvE was forcibly removed from the game, and they emergency patched it back in, but not even close to what was promised. And then players were hoping that it was going to come back, but it was completely canceled, which was a huge blow to the game. And the timeline of it was Overwatch 1 came out, everybody loved it. We saw rumors of Overwatch 2 dating back to 2017. Overwatch 2 was announced in 2019. A pandemic hits, development slows, and then Overwatch 2 was released 3 years later with barely any content, and they also lied about the release date, because the real release was on April 26th, but not October 4th. The actual cause of death, in my opinion, and I looked at the blood report for this, I looked at the blood report for Overwatch 2, and the cause of death, in my eyes, was lethal levels of toxic monetization in the bloodstream. And now, this is honestly really sad, because this is not uncommon for games like this that are neglected to go down this route. I've seen it before, with Halo Infinite, for example. They also had toxic levels of monetization in their bloodstream at the pronounced time of death. So the developers changed the model from a paid one-time cost, where then in-game you can earn currency to get loot boxes. So it was a loot box monetization system. They changed the monetization to a free-to-play model that was purely based on microtransactions, right? They wanted to shift their effort to skin releases and microtransactions and just avoid loot boxes. Right? I've noticed that with this practice that they do when they move a game to free-to-play with monetization through microtransactions, content starts to fully revolve around skin releases. A lot of collabs and hype around these skins instead of actually playable content. It just kind of makes me sad, right? Very, very sad upbringing. Very, very sad. But then we have the big player here, which is change in monetization. We go from here, right? And now content is based around skins. Content now is skins. You will buy cosmetics and enjoy it. And I hate this. I really hate this practice. I'll be honest. I've seen some of my friends in just like some of my circles and stuff. They actually get pretty excited for some of these skin releases. And a lot of them are collabs, which is very hype, but I just don't really get it anymore. I'm just tired of paying for cosmetics that alter your looks, and that's it. It's even worse because in Overwatch, it's all first person, so you barely even see your character anyways, unless you're a Chad, Reinhardt, or Hamster main, because then you could roll around and stuff and, you know, hold your shield up so you actually get to see your skin. So shout out to Reinhardt and Hamster players, but you basically are paying money so other people can see your skins, and they're insanely overpriced, so it's almost like I feel like I'm getting scammed. I see a lot of the skins costing $20 to $25 or $67 for a bundle, when I could go onto Steam right now and I could buy Hollow Knight for $15. No sale or anything, but just straight up buying it, $15. Absolute amazing game. That's a whole experience for less money than one skin. Skins are way too expensive. Just buy games, because genuinely, like, you get nothing from buying a skin. And I'll be honest, I fall for this trap sometimes. I'm not invincible to this. I buy skins all the time in games. I don't buy them much anymore, but so to me, the cosmetics kind of ruin the game. The cosmetics to me are the cause of death. The toxic monetization practices found in this victim's Bloodstream were the cause of death, because all that Blizzard is doing now is they're only making skins. All the content they make is collabs and skins. They aren't making besides that. They added 6v6 to the game. Is a great example. They added a feature from Overwatch 1 back to the game. You know what else they did that was content they added? They made patch 1 Overwatch. So they made a whole like game mode where you would play day 1 Overwatch. So the only two most recent pieces of content that I can remember that Overwatch added that weren't skins and characters were things that already existed in Overwatch 1. It's crazy. I don't actually know if Overwatch is dying. The player base is still really, really big, but there are even more people criticizing it. And I just want to reiterate that Overwatch had a lot of potential, right? I'm only passionate about this because of what I want this game to be. And I'm pronouncing this death to be to toxic levels of monetization in the game's bloodstream because it's a practice that claims a lot of games. And I'm afraid it's only going to be getting worse. We're seeing an epidemic of greed in the gaming sphere where almost every game focuses on, hey, look at these new skins, look at these new events and stuff, when I would much rather pay money for actual content. Like a DLC, a lot of people back in the day was like, oh, I'm paying for the rest of my game. I would much rather pay for that than I would for a skin that costs $20 that only makes my ass look good. You know, like, I don't give it anymore. I just want to play video games. So the games that I can see going down this route, Marvel Rivals is one of them. I love Marvel Rivals, but eventually it will fall down the same exact skin hellhole that all the other games are going in. League right now is really bad. They basically removed the free loot box system, and now there's like a whole gotcha thing they're doing with skins where skins can be up to $500. Genshin Impact is really popular, and I don't play Genshin Impact, but I know it's another gacha game, and at least the characters in there, when you do unlock them, you have to spend money to get it, but at least they have abilities. There's a bunch of games like that. Halo Infinite, terrible monetization practices, and that game is just not great. Overwatch 2, you have Apex Legends, also has a bunch of bad skin practices. If you throw a dart at a board, you're going to hit a game that has toxic practices. Counter-Strike with the crate and key system. There's a lot of examples out there of games just with bad monetization. It just makes me so sad. It's only going to get worse, guys. Support game devs that actually make full games and everything, but it's really hard to find them, and it's really, really sad. I don't want to be too negative because I do enjoy a lot of these games still. Anyways, I've talked everyone's ear off. This was a practice cadaver. Overwatch 2 has been talked to death. I'm pretty sure all of us actually already knew about a lot of these things, and I really think that like I can narrow the cause of death to the microtransactions. But anyways, thanks for watching this segment. I'll see all of you guys in the next investigation.